Welcome, everybody, to Devva's Room, Disability and Culture for Everyone. We host Devva's Room collaboratively between the Disability History and Culture Collective, known as DHACC, and the I Love You Lead On community on the second Wednesday of the month. Okay. Sorry, didn't have my video on. Info on future and post events and registration. We also have a playlist for Devva's Room. And donation opportunities is available at bit.ly/Devva's Room, capital D, lowercase e, VVAS, uppercase ROOM. There's also a QR code on the slide. Next slide. Today is January 14th. It's always good to know what day it is. And this evening's presentation is on who was Henry Viscardi, Jr., and about the up-and-coming, very exciting, the Museum of Disability History at the Viscardi Center. We're going to hear some background about the development of that museum by Dr. Chris Rosa. And then we're going to have a virtual tour with Natalie Reyes, the director. Again, info can be found about how to find the playlist, where this will be logged after we clean up the captions, is continuing on the slide at bit.ly/Devva's Room. Next slide. Next month, we will be featuring Grover Hogan, who happens to be on the call, along with Rick Barry and Clifford
Just a moment.
Heath.
I want to let you know the slides are not changing. So I don't know what's happening.
Oh, they are changing for me.
But they're not changing on the screen.
It just changed for me. Sharon, did you hear
Let
that?
me demonstrate. There's the old one. Here's the new one.
They look the same, Michelle?
We need it needs to be multi-pin.
The slide is like showing everyone. It's not a big difference. It's only a little difference in the slide.
The slide is announcing Devva's Room next month. So it looks very similar to the previous slide. We have a beautiful photograph of Devva. She has wings. She's facing one particular direction, wearing her lovely glasses and some earrings, and a beautiful dress with a chain necklace. And she's holding in her left hand a wand with a star, because one of her personas was as the weaver of magic and the weaver of dance. So as I said, February 11th, which will be next month, Lois Curtis and the Olmsted Act is the topic, by Grover Hogan, Rick Barry, and Clifford Heath. Next slide. If you are needing any accessibility requests made or help during the event, if you'd like to request a voice option during the presentation, you can email us at leadon with capital L O and capital O at iloveyou-leadon.com. I love you are capitalized and lead on. Next slide. Just to get us all on the same page during the presentation, all Zoom attendees will be muted to support access and reduce background noise. If you need to use your voice to communicate during the presentation, email us and we'll arrange a separate voice space just for that. After the presentation ends, we'll open up mics for conversation, unrecorded, one voice at a time as usual. Chat comments will be read aloud to provide access. And if you don't want the chat read aloud, you can private message any one of the hosts and let us know how you would like that read or not read. Next slide. ASL is provided for the presentation. Thank you, Michelle, and will be spotlighted. Auto captions are available and can be viewed on screen or as a transcript. In the Zoom toolbar, there is a CC option. If it is not there, click the three dots for more options and locate it there. The ability to show, hide, or adjust the captions is there, as well as the option to view captions as a transcript. Next slide. What makes Devva's Room unique? Disability studies tends to be discussed in academic settings, using complicated jargon, making it inaccessible to many. Here, we take it out of the classroom and into conversation. And in keeping with that, we invite our ASL interpreter to participate fully, asking questions and joining the discussion if and when they have them. Next slide. Devva's Room sessions are recorded. All Devva's Room sessions are recorded and will be available on our playlist within a few days with corrected captions and transcripts. And you can find the playlist on the Devva's Room website at bit.ly/Devva's Room, no space, with a capital D and a capital R. And there is a QR code on this slide. Next slide.
That's it, I believe.
All right, we will go forward with our presentation with Chris Rosa and Natalie Reyes. All right, we will go forward with our presentation with Chris Rosa and Natalie Reyes.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone.
Hold on, let me
Hi, everyone.
Let me spotlight you. Give me just a second. I lost you guys. Add spotlight. Add spotlight. Okay. Thank you both.
Terrific. Thank you. Good evening. I'm Chris Rosa, and I'm proud to be here with my colleague, Natalie Reyes, to tell you about the history of one of our true heroes, Dr. Henry Viscardi Jr., and to preview our Museum of Disability History. I'm proud to be here with Natalie in particular because she is our new director of the Museum of Disability History, and she'll tell you a little bit about her background, but she's already enlivened our approach to launching our museum. And I think you're going to be very proud of what you see tonight. It's a great opening. And we have a long way to go, but we're really proud of our beginning. And just to tell you a little bit about me, first of all, as a description, I'm a white, middle-aged, bald guy wearing glasses and a shirt and tie with a collar. And my backdrop is the $1 Million Staircase in Albany, New York, where I joined 300 students with disabilities who took over the staircase in the great tradition of the great Bob Kafka, who I know we're all remembering here today, to protest the lack of investment in disability services and reasonable accommodations in higher ed. And we continue that fight together. But having great resources like Devva's Room and we believe, our Museum of Disability History, I think enriches their perspectives and embolden them to proceed in the tradition of those advocates who have come before them in order to make change and to make opportunities like the one you're offering more widely available throughout the disability community. So I'm proud to be here tonight with all of you. I'm the I'm the president and CEO of the Viscardi Center since 2022. But before that, I spent 29 years in higher ed administration at my alma mater, CUNY. I worked at campuses, Queens College most notably, but then transitioned to the central administration, where I led efforts towards inclusion for the university's more than 11,000 students with disabilities. In my graduate study, I had remarkable guidance and advocacy and had my career shaped by great scholars like David Good. I'm proud he's here tonight, and he's been instrumental in my perspective and instrumental in us getting the Museum of Disability History off the ground. So I'm grateful for his support. And one of the things he did for me which I cherish, was he introduced me to
Yeah,
Devva as we were working.
stuffing kilos on him.
Okay. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Sorry.
Yes, Chris.
Thank you. And one of the gifts he gave me was an introduction, along with Bill Ebenstein, to Devva, as we were trying to launch the graduate program in disability study at CUNY School of Professional Studies. And thanks to her, we were able to build a great curriculum, and she helped us to navigate the academic governance structures of CUNY SPS in order to bring the disability studies graduate programs to fruition. And we were honored to have her as a faculty member who taught courses for the program. So I know we all owe Devva a great debt. And for me, it feels deeply personal. So I'm particularly grateful to be here this evening. And just a quick overview of the Viscardi Center. We're a network of nonprofit organizations that educate, employ, and empower people with disabilities and their families throughout the life cycle. We're best known for our Henry Viscardi School, which creates educational opportunities for students with typical cognitive development, but very significant disabilities and underlying illnesses. The key dimension of our approach to robust scholarship from K through 12 is the fact that we have a medical suite on site that allows students who need daily medical care to weave that seamlessly into the course of a traditional school day. 90% of our graduates, I'm proud to say, annually go on to college and pursue their dreams. And more often than not, it involves disability study scholarship as part of their curriculum somewhere. So I'm proud of that. And I think my experiences of CUNY position me well to be able to offer the Museum of Disability History as a component of an already robust curriculum that's designed to empower students with disabilities to themselves develop empowered senses of self and identity. And I think you'll get a sense of how that's possible through our presentation tonight. So Natalie, if this is a little bit of an overview of our presentation, and I'm going to kind of kick us off by giving you the history of our founder, Dr. Henry Viscardi Jr. One of the great opportunities for us through the museum is to help to tell the story more richly of Dr. Viscardi, who we've always felt is an unappreciated American disability rights and disability studies hero. And this is an opportunity for everybody to draw their own conclusions, but we're hoping that that conclusion is that he belongs in the pantheon of disability rights leaders and heroes. But I think everybody will be able to come to their own conclusion. And I think that's the great and the hallmark of any cultural institution. So Natalie, if we could move to the first slide.
And then a little introduction about me.
Oh, forgive me. Let me please
No, you're
yield.
fine, Chris.
Now let
You're
me
fine.
please yield to my partner, Natalie.
So a little bit of introduction. So hi, everyone. I'm Natalie Reyes. I'm the director of the Museum of Disability History. I started a little bit about myself. My pronouns are she and her. And I am a light-skinned, brunette, curly hair, Hispanic woman. I started at the Viscardi Center in September of 2025. And I have long been a committed advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion, with a professional and scholarly focus on expanding community engagement and developing museum-based educational programs that elevate historically underrepresented and untold narratives. through oral histories, specifically. So my passion for like educating diverse audiences across a wide range of developmental abilities, combined with my lived experience as a mother of two daughters with neurological disabilities, informs and like strengthens in my approach to designing inclusive learning abilities initiatives centered on disability history, ensuring that the museum serves as a space specifically for accessibility, empathy, and meaningful, lasting like community impact. So that being said, I consider myself an emerging museum scholar in the field of disability history, learning under the guidance of my inspiring leader, Dr. Chris Rosso, and also as well as many of the scholars like advocates, leaders, speakers, and community members that are joining today and also join weekly for the disability community group. So thank you, Susan, Sharon, and Alice. I love those meetings that we have weekly on Wednesday. I'm learning a lot from you guys. So together and today, we're examining the museum's development and its approach to representing this history and its vision for the future. And for our little overview, as Chris started, we're going to start over right now to Dr. Henry Viscardi Jr.
Thank you, Natalie.
Yep.
So who was Dr. Henry Viscardi Jr.? So Hank Viscardi was, his family were first generation Italian Americans. He was the son of an Italian barber born in New York City in 1912 with what doctors then called arrested development of the lower limbs. Hank Viscardi himself, in his autobiography, referred to himself as a guy with stumps for legs. But he spent the first 6 years of his life in a hospital as doctors tried to strengthen his short, twisted thighs so that they could carry his own weight. He underwent many corrective surgeries and endured painful traction. And finally, he was fitted with casts that enabled him to walk. Because all of the hospitalization, Viscardi hardly knew his mother and had not yet met his two sisters. Next slide, please. Because of the unavailability of assistive technology to poor families in the pre-Depression era, he learned to walk on his hands, making him the subject of great derision in his neighborhood. In his autobiography, he says that in the Italian enclave in East Harlem, where he grew up, he acquired the nickname the Ape Man because he walked on his hands. And the ridicule and stigma really stung with him. And it really drove him to a lifelong commitment to ensure that all people with disabilities, and indeed all people, were treated with basic human dignity. In the next 8 years, Dr. Viscardi, who was really a brilliant guy, he breezed through primary grades in high school. And he also served as the manager of the basketball team and covered school sports for the New York Times. He earned money refereeing the basketball games for a family where revenue was really tight. Next slide, please. When his father died, Viscardi and his older sister had to provide for his mother and 3 younger sisters. Still, when the time came, his family decided that Hank would go to college. He worked his way through Fordham University by sweeping floors, waiting on tables, and helping in the administration office. Throughout all this, his grades were stellar, and he was an honor student. But because of financial reasons, ultimately, he did not complete school. At age 27, for the first time, Dr. Viscardi was fitted with his first artificial legs after an encounter with Dr. Howard Russ, who said something to him that would really change his life forever and propel his commitment for equity and justice for people with disabilities. And I'll get to that towards the end of my introduction of Hank Viscardi. Next slide, please. He was a real patriot. And when the United States in 1941 entered World War II, he tried to enlist, and of course he was declared 4F by the draft board, but he was referred to the American Red Cross, where they felt like he could really make a difference in supporting the lives and the recovery of soldiers who returned with service-connected disabilities. He served as a field service officer for the American Red Cross in New York, where he worked with amputees on their transition to civilian life with a disability. And it's there where, by chance, he met Eleanor Roosevelt, who was touring the facility to get a better understanding of what we were facing regarding the cost of war when it came to people acquiring disabilities, and to get a sense of what we would need in order to support their transition, their return to civilian life. And he was so compelling, so bright, that she was immediately struck by him, and they struck up a correspondence relationship where they kept in touch for years and years. And she thought so much of his ability to empower soldiers with injuries to return to civilian life, that she had him transferred to Walter Reed Hospital in Washington, D.C. And he did, by all accounts, remarkable work in all aspects of readiness to return to civilian life, but one sticking point. The companies that these soldiers left in order to serve their country would no longer consider hiring them back. And there were very few entities that would give these soldiers with disabilities a chance to return to competitive employment. And that infuriated him, and it burned. And after the war had ended, he went back to work himself. He became the personnel director of Burlington Mills Corporation, but he noticed that even there, workers with candidates with physical disabilities, many of which were soldiers returning from service, were unable to find employment. So this really fueled his fire to become a pioneer for empowering people with disabilities in seeking competitive employment. And he reached out to Eleanor Roosevelt for help. And she connected him with with Bernard Baruch, who he was the Secretary of the Treasury. And after a long conversation with Henry Viscardi, Bernard Baruch said, "Why don't you build it yourself? Why don't you go out and build an enterprise run by and for people with disabilities as a for-profit enterprise?" And so he took that advice to heart, and he left his job at Burlington Mills and set out to make that vision come true. He went to Long Island, and he spoke with members of chambers of commerce throughout Long Island. He raised $38,000, and he bought a garage in West Hempstead, and a leaky garage, but he saw the potential, and he had it transformed into a shop floor for production. And he bid on several military contracts that had been issued to military production providers on Long Island. For example, Grumman, General Electric, just two of the more prominent names. And he acquired several contracts to manufacture different aspects of needed to assemble military aircraft, military vehicles. And he went out and he was able to hire 30 people with disabilities in its opening at that garage in West Hempstead. Within the first year, they paid back all of their investors who helped them acquire and retrofit the garage in West Hempstead. And they earned a small profit after paying all the staff of $50,000. They went out and they bid for more contracts. And within 3 years, they grew the staff to 300 employees with disabilities, running the enterprise from top to bottom. And they outgrew the space at the garage at West Hempstead. So he went to Albertson, where he was able to acquire a larger plot of land where he built Abilities Incorporated, where the shop floor could accommodate 300 employees. And in that first year in Albertson, they grossed more than $1 million in sales. And they were able to grow and expand continually, really setting a new direction for employment for people with disabilities, and ultimately creating pathways for integrated inclusive employment for firms throughout the greater New York area. In the course of his recruiting qualified individuals with disabilities to staff the enterprises at Abilities Incorporated, he encountered lots of families whose kids with significant physical disabilities were sidelined and excluded from school because none of their district schools were accessible. And this was a good 13 years before the passage of the IDEA, which would require it. So at the family's urging, he took some of the property that he had acquired and established the Human Resources School with assistance from the New York State Board of Regents. This was really named after him in his honor in 1992, but it's emerged as a center for inclusive education for students with disabilities. I'm sorry, can I have the next slide? He was the author of 8 books, and he's best known for A Man's Stature, which was printed in 1952, reprinted in 1989. And since then, our digital accessibility services enterprise has digitized the book. So now it's available on most platforms, including Amazon. So very low cost. So if you'd like to pick up a copy, it's a snapshot of the American disability experience at a different time, but it drives into the core principle that people are not intrinsically limited by their disabilities. It has everything to do with the settings that they encounter, which determine how people will experience and be experienced by others in living with their disabilities. We're really proud that Dr. Viscardi was the disability policy advisor from every president, from Franklin Delano Roosevelt to Jimmy Carter, about issues affecting people with disabilities. And in our museum, we'll get to it. Can I have the next slide, please? So Viscardi said that what he achieved personally and professionally could have only happened in America. Always a patriot. In what other land would I, a person born without legs, have been given the opportunity to become a learned man? I learned from a great lesson from the doctor, Howard Russ, who gave me artificial legs. Russ said, when I couldn't pay his bill, he told me if I would make a difference for just one other life, a life dependent on the charity of a family or the community, that his bill would be repaid. And he felt throughout his whole life that through his work on behalf of people with disabilities at Viscardi, he was still paying that bill. And he passed along that obligation to repay that debt to every president who succeeded him at the Viscardi Center. I'm number 5. I'm proud to be number 5. And I feel like together with Natalie and all my colleagues at Viscardi, we're working on fulfilling our obligation to keep that promise. Could I have the next slide, please? This is just a really cool photo montage of Hank growing up. I'm proud of the one on the right. It's a great photo of him and Eleanor Roosevelt. So can I have the next slide, please, Natalie? And one of the greatest things that we've been able to include in the museum as a tribute to our founder is his office preserved as it was when he passed away in 2004. And you can see from the panels in front that there's an opportunity to understand what is in his office and how it represents different aspects of his commitment to educating, employing, and empowering people with disabilities, and how it taps into all the aspects of the Viscardi Center's mission to this day. So now I'm going to yield to my colleague, Natalie, who will just take you through an overview of the Museum of Disability History. Natalie, over to you.
Okay, so what you guys are seeing right now is basically the size of the museum, which is 4,500 square feet, and how it was planned from like the beginning. You'll see right here, that's just an architectural map, blueprint. It shows you the exhibition, which is a temporary exhibition, as well as Dr. Viscardi's office, which is our permanent exhibition, as well as our multi-purpose room, which we will be using for educational programs, as well as workshops and anything else that has to do with, just groups visiting or even putting together a meeting. As for the timeline, I'm not sure if we're in the way, but let me get us out the way. So as for the timeline, the construction planning actually started in the summer of 2024. We are able to say that we built a museum in less than 9 months. Usually building a museum from even experience and just learning it from a master's program for museum studies, it usually takes 2 years. So we're able to say that we actually built it in less than 9 months. So construction planning actually started summer of 2024. And the construction actually started in January 2025. We did have a soft launch in October, towards the end of October, around like Halloween. And that was a success. Many people actually joined. We were actually able to get more of a donation from Nassau County for marketing as well. But where the museum actually started was in Buffalo, in upstate New York. So,
And may I just add just a quick story about that?
yeah, go ahead, Chris.
So no, thank you. So we see ourselves as curators of a great collection that was first created in Buffalo by People First Incorporated, a nonprofit that serves people with disabilities. And it was really the passion project of the executive director there. And they, with the help of the county, they acquired space in an abandoned firehouse where they created just a wonderful collection that told, I thought, a very powerful story about people with disabilities and their arc, their representation and the absence thereof throughout the arc of Western civilization. And I had never really experienced anything like it. I discovered it by accident when working as the Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs at CUNY. We led a contingent of 100 CUNY students with disabilities to Western New York to participate in a student empowerment conference. And during our downtime, we were looking for things to do that kept them out of bars longer than they might be in Western New York. And by chance, we found the museum less than 4 miles from our hotel. And our students went there and they fell in love. They had never seen a cultural institution which centered around their lived experience with disability throughout the arc of Western history. So we returned every time we went to Western New York. And during the darkest days of the pandemic, we received an email blast that said, I'm sorry, but because of a loss of revenue during the pandemic, we'd be forced to close our doors. So out of abject loss and sadness, I just wrote a note to the director who I had never met, David McHardiman, and I said how sorry we were for the loss of our community. We loved the place. And working at CUNY at the time, I just happened to say, do you have any plans for the collection? And they said, no, but we'd like to keep it together and we'd like to keep it in New York State. And at that time, working for CUNY, I thought that the College of Staten Island on the campus of Willowbrook would be an ideal home for this wonderful collection that they had amassed. And I had been working on it, and then the opportunity at the Viscardi Center came up for me. And with CUNY's blessing, we decided to work on it together, with the home being at the Viscardi Center, but the archives being located at the Willowbrook Archives at the College of Staten Island. So we continue the great partnership with CUNY in order to build this really elegant collection. Sorry, Natalie. Thank you. Please continue.
No, Chris, they need to know exactly how it started. And yes, Chris was the pinpoint and the starter of the talk of the museum going into the Viscardi Center in a space called Kids. So one of our wonderful donors, John Cornreich, actually provided the space as well as the donation to do the construction of the museum in what's called the Cornreich Institute of Disability Studies, which acronym KIDS. So now this wonderful museum is in that space. And the focus, especially for kids, was providing as much technology and support for the kids that were in and are still in Henry Viscardi School, especially for our transitional services and our transitional programs. So now our museum is in here to do exactly what kids was inspired to do and basically teach. So to move on, and our public opening is in February now due to a flood that we had, unfortunately, on Veterans Day. And now it's going to be open on February 17th. So next month, if you guys are able to visit the museum in person. But a little bit of plans and collaborations for you guys. We did redesign the website for the Museum of Disability. And we are basically in the process of putting together a live digital guide called Bloomberg Connects. So you can download that on your iPhone, you can download that on your Android, which will be actually live by the time we open in February. It's still in progress. This digital guide will actually have everything in audio, and everything that we actually have in the exhibit as if you were actually there in person. We do still have the past perfect database of all the artifacts that we have from the Buffalo collection. So up to the 8,000 artifacts that we have, from books to photographs to newspapers, we actually still have the past perfect database on our website, and individuals are able to access that currently still. And also, if you guys have any requests of wanting a specific artifact from our collection, you guys are able to either email myself or send over basically an email, a text, a chat on Zoom right now, if you guys actually are interested in anything when it comes to any artifacts from our collection, and I'll be able to share a picture or share any information about that specific artifact from our storage. But we do still have the traveling exhibits that the Buffalo collection had, up to 12 traveling exhibits with different themes. And individuals are able to rent out these traveling exhibits for up to 6 months, even a year. So if you're interested in actually getting a traveling exhibit for any specific reason, you can definitely send me an email or contact me to be able to put together that traveling exhibit for you, and also provide you with some information about what traveling exhibits we have. As for partnerships, we partnered with a lot of individuals, a lot, and we still continue to actually partner with them as well. Individuals from Emerging America, Hofstra University, the Long Island Children's Museum, that museum. Many of these individuals actually helped put the collection together and put the exhibit together, put what was actually important to include in the museum for individuals to learn about disability history as the curators were digging into the collection and basically figuring out what reproductions we needed to put in the exhibit, what loans we were supposed to put in the exhibit. There was many people involved into this project, into this huge project, because museums is a team effort. It's a team thing. And we, like Chris said, we are collaborated with the College of Staten Island, especially that we have artifacts about Willowbrook in our collection, in our exhibit, to showcase. And some of the artifacts that I'm talking about are on here, on this slide specifically. Just like this image down here, this great image of a single man just sitting on a bed in the Willowbrook Institute. That is one strong image in our exhibit, but we have many topics, many themes, which were incorporated. So basically, our temporary exhibition, which also serves as the museum's inaugural exhibit, unfolds through 14 immersive portals. Each portal offers a chapter of a larger story, guiding visitors through interconnected themes that reveal the depths and complexity and lived experiences at the heart of disability history. So as you can see from some of these incorporated themes, education, advocacy, and self-advocacy, representation and self-representation, confinement institutions, and these are just themes that are listed on these sides. And basically, these themes were very thought out by the curators. And basically, we say 14 portals, we say portals, but all these themes actually incorporate themselves in each and every portal, even though they are focused on a specific introduction question. And what I mean by that, So the curators, their vision was to basically focus on the last 150 years of the United States. And they sought to actually highlight the nation's internal diversity and the evolving, often contested boundaries of disability. They carefully selected artifacts from the Buffalo collection, and also supplemented them with reproductions, loans, and new acquisitions. Each artifact serves as like a portal. As you can see in these two images, it starts off with an introduction or an open question. So this is portal, what we like to call portal 4. And this actually focuses on how disabled individuals shape the world they move through. As you can see on the right image, you would see like a wooden chair. You would see basically the accessibility signs. You will see a universal doorknob, and there's many more that just incorporated within just this one portal. So they picked a specific main image or artifact, and they incorporated many other reproductions, artifacts, and like just put them all together and making it make sense with what they wanted to portray from that question. These are other introduction questions that they brought to the stage and within this exhibit. And these are just to welcome many perspectives and make people think of how, there's many how questions, of how this actually incorporates in disability history and what they're learning in the artifacts they are looking at, such as education, such as citizenship and belonging. And these are some of the artifacts that we actually have within the portal. So yes, we do have a straitjacket that starts off that question of violence and control. And there are just many artifacts that just go into each portal, not only from inside the exhibit, but also on the outside. The individuals that put together the exhibit, as well as just the design itself, and what the Viscardi Center actually did was make sure that inclusion was the main point and accessibility was the main point of the exhibit designs. JSA/Mixed Design is a nonprofit. They're an inclusive architectural design studio and center in New York that looks at quote unquote accessibility beyond cold appliance. The curators themselves, and I'm going to read a quote that they specifically stated themselves when they finished this project and were in the process of putting together this project. They stated, "It has been exciting to explore such an expensive collection and use that as a source of inquiry. Our goal in the curation of this exhibition was not to find or express one history, but many disability histories that have unfolded in parallel intention in the United States. With that goal, we have mobilized the collection in dialogue with loans and reproductions that expand its reach, bridging historical and contemporary disability narratives. We want the exhibition to raise key questions for audiences, enabling them to dive into those multiple histories. And we have benefited from feedback and contributions from many individuals throughout a truly collective curatorial process." Ignacio, Gallon, and Jordan, they both are academic scholars in disability history. And that was word on word what they really felt about this exhibition and putting this exhibition together, when they were going over the collection and what needed to be included and what people actually wanted within this museum and what their expectations were. And I'm going to pass the baton to Chris, and he can give you more information about what these workshops actually looked like when it was being in the process of building it.
So thanks so much, Natalie. As we were building it, we realized that we had a unique opportunity, but a profound obligation to make sure that we built it right, that we built it with the principles of universal design at the forefront, to make sure that the collection provided the most access to the most people. And so with that, we reached out, we got really wonderful curators. Ignacio and Jordan were really forward thinking. We realized that with 8,000 artifacts and 4,500 square feet, we could not be exhaustive in our efforts to tell the broad expanse of the American disability history story. It was just not possible. So rather than that, as Natalie said, we decided we would focus on the last 150 years, and we would provide portals for people to peer into and to situate themselves and their own lived experiences with disabilities at what people with disabilities were experiencing in that moment in time in American history, asking provocative, thought-provoking questions, and gave you the opportunity to answer them for yourselves, all the while taking you on an arc of key moments in disability history over the last 150 years. And then, as Natalie will show you later, a reflection space, our multi-purpose learning center, where particularly if you're in a group, Natalie would partner with an academic leader or an advocate leader who would help to lead you in a larger discussion of what you just experienced, what it taught you about American disability history, what does it say about us today as Americans with disabilities, and what does it teach us about the future? So we began with a curatorial advisory group of people who are very prominent in the American disability history space. And you see the list, Gina Kim from Smith College, Mara Mills at NYU, David Serlin at the University of California, San Diego, all had the opportunity to give us guidance on inclusive museum design. And, we use that as sort of our guidepost as we began to inch closer to our best initial effort to make the museum the most inclusive space that we could. We had 4 executive team committee members, and I'm proud that Craig is here. He played a really instrumental role in helping us do our best to get it right. Thank you, Craig. Our Museum of Disability History trustees themselves are committed to this principle, so they were actively involved, mostly in quality control and making sure we were hitting our internally set targets to make sure that we were building efficiently, but never losing sight of inclusion. And Allied Works representatives who really designed this space and were involved in all of our conversations to make sure that the design features of the space were well equipped for us to meet our mandate. With workshop number 1, as I said, we invited academics from the University of Cal Berkeley, Fordham, University of Maryland, CUNY, Craig from Hofstra, and the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History, and Emerging America, which is a wonderful resource where disability studies scholars in looking to grow that in K through 12 made their syllabi where they work to include syllabi that work to include disability history, disability culture in existing K through 12 school curricula. So it's a repository that is available to anyone who has that same goal. They were all involved in helping us to build out the space in the most inclusive way. And in workshop number 2, we invited a diverse representation of cross disability backgrounds to give us feedback on how the museum and the exhibits themselves should be laid out in the most inclusive way. And to make sure we got it right, because in museums, you measure twice but cut once, right? Once you build it, it's hard to go back. It's costly. So, and we couldn't afford to make that kind of mistake. So we built an exact replica of some of the museums that we set up in an adjacent conference room, and we allowed all of those end users to come in and give us real feedback on how exhibits laid out at the way we proposed would actually meet or not meet their needs. And based on their user experience, we made some final tweaks and adjustments just to make sure we can do everything we possibly could to get the design features right and accessible for the most users. Natalie,
So
back to you.
this is where the fun part is. Tour time. But this is not a professional tour. It's not a professional, recording of the museum, but it will actually give you an insight of what the museum what it looked like, before the flood and before the construction, second construction. So let me stop sharing and let me get you guys the
And if
tour
I may
video.
add, it was terrible to go through a flood. It was good practice for us. And thank God the flood didn't damage any of the artifacts.
Yeah.
It was just infrastructure, which was awful. But we have insurance, thank God. So it was paid for. We've just paid in sweat and tears and nerves about this. But we're so blessed that none of the artifacts and exhibits themselves were damaged.
Okay, so can everybody see this? Yes. We're good. Okay, so tour time. And just to pause it on our little gift kiosk over there, everything and all the items that you guys see were made by Spectrum Designs, which is a organization that started off hiring individuals that were on the autism spectrum. And now they hire and have many individuals with disabilities that create different items. So from the beanies and the baseball caps that you guys see there, that was made by Spectrum Designs, which are they're located in Port Washington. But there's also items that were created by the Henry Viscardi students as well, such as like the hot sauce, and also from our transitional programs. And yeah, we wanted to make it as special as possible when it comes to what we actually represent. So a lot of the items in your little gift kiosk was made by individuals with disabilities. Continuing to the tour.
That's, of course, the Dr. Viscardi's office as
So
he
this
left it.
is, yep. So this is our permanent exhibition. Everything going from childhood and forward about Dr. Henry Viscardi, and from the TV is basically his documentary as well, that you guys can actually view the whole entire documentary when our live guide goes live in February. So that little corner is where like our restroom, all ADA. We do have Braille signs for individuals as well. And this is our multi-purpose room. As you can see, the desk and chairs, they were not set up that way during the opening. But that's portal 1. that is our introduction to the portals, which also lists individuals that were a part of it, as well as the curators. We do have television, so audios, not just artifacts, but as you guys seen, that was the Capitol Crawl video. And that's our little invocar in the middle. A variety of pins. And that's portal 2, that's portal 3. Each one has an introduction, each one has a quote. And then it just goes into many other artifacts that just intersect with everything else that you guys will actually learn within the exhibit. Don't mind me, I was working on the portal. But yeah.
Natalie, someone said in the chat, could you please tell them how they are accessible if they are not able to see the exhibit?
So Bloomberg Connects actually has everything that you guys just seen in the tour video. So everything will be accessible there, from explaining what you guys are learning of the art, about the artifacts, about the newspaper clips of all the reproductions or loans that we have, and also breaking down the videos. So there will be video links that will direct you to the full video of all the videos that we have within the museum. I believe it's 6 or 7, yeah, 7 videos within our museum that actually is either a documentary of an event, a significant event that happened, as well as documentaries that speak on disability and education. And we even have an audio of one of the episodes that talks about healthcare from Alice Huang. Before sadly she passed away, we were able to get her permission to share her audio on healthcare within New York City. So
If I could just add,
yeah.
Bloomberg Connects is really a powerful tool for inclusion. As Natalie said, it lets you know when you're approaching a portal. At that point, it will provide prompts in all modalities, text to speech. It'll provide audio description of what's in front of you. And as Natalie said, it'll give a description of the portal and it'll raise some provocative questions for you to consider as you experience this part of the portal. And it'll give you guidance to the next portal. But it also, sorry, for people who are low vision, it also has images there which allows you to zoom in if that would help in terms of accessing the accompanying description of the exhibit before you. It allows you to change the font, to change the font size, to change the particular font, the background, the foreground. So it's a very powerful tool, which gives you a lot of options in terms of giving you access to the exhibit in the most ways. Sorry, Natalie. Thank you.
No, and then it also has access to a map. So what you guys basically seen as a blueprint, that blueprint was shared with the team that does Bloomberg Connects. And they basically were able to imitate that architectural design, and we were able to put pins of all the artifacts of where they're actually located within the museum, for individuals that would like to know like where it actually is. So it's a lot. So yeah, now we have time for like taking a break or questions, comments, anything that happened in the chat. Let me see what happened in the chat. Yeah.
Should we take a 10-minute break?
Yeah, we could take a 10-minute break, and then I'll answer any of the questions that popped up in here.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to Devva's Room. Devva's Room is a virtual space open to all, seeking to bring anyone interested in disability studies together in conversation and in solidarity. Devva's Room is inspired by the life and legacy of Devva Kasnitz and her outstanding contributions to the field of disability studies. Devva's Room is volunteer-led by members of the Disability History and Culture Collective and the I Love You Lead On community. In a 2023 reflection, Devva wrote of her determination to be more comfortable in study and advocacy and to blend them together to create a diaspora of disability studies best ideas. By holding regular events led by prominent and emerging voices in disability studies, we hope to honor this mission. Devva believed in a fully inclusive world that respected everyone's communication strategies. Inclusive and accessible technology can be costly. You can help support technology expenses for Devva's Room, which will allow us to grow and expand. If you have the resources to contribute to the development and sustainability of Devva's Room, please consider donating by scanning the QR code on your screen or by visiting the link in the chat, donorbox.org/Devva-S-room. Thank you so much for showing up and learning together with us.
And since the beginning of that particular video, we have participated in the Giving Tuesday event right after Thanksgiving and have established a page on iloveYouLeadOn.com/donate. I Love You Lead On community and all of its various projects are volunteer-led. We have a variety of ways you can support our efforts to provide full access. Our work includes the Disability History and Culture Collective, this space, Devva's Room, Judy's Room, Justin's Room, and other events on the horizon. Next slide. That might be it. For updated information, scheduling, registration details, please visit www.iloveyou-leadon.com/Devva or bit.ly/Devva's Room. And post episodes, the playlist is linked from iloveYouLeadOn.com, but there's also bit.ly/Devva's Room playlist, and there's a QR code on the screen. We're done. Okay, back to Chris and Natalie.
Oh, welcome back, guys.
I don't see any questions or anything in the chat. Do you see any? Let's see. I think they were mainly from the beginning of people trying to get. Some people thought that we had a link to when you were going to present to us in the fall, and we're not sure if people were trying to get into tonight's event using that link. And not using the link that we sent out. I'm not sure. Hopefully we'll hear back from people if they had trouble getting in.
And for individuals that are curious about or want to know exactly how we're going to be accessible for individuals with basically low vision or that are blind, we will have.
Thank you.
We will have
It's so cold. You can come back and snuggle up.
So we will have a blind, basically for low vision and blind individuals, we will have a touch list that we will provide to either their aide that is accompanying them, a family member or any individual that's accompanying them, or we can actually provide a guided tour for them and actually help them with showing them the artifacts that they can actually touch. This is specifically for individuals that request it or need help when they actually visit the museum.
I do see a comment from David Good. Amazing work.
Oh yeah.
Did not
Hi,
know about
David.
Henry Viscardi. Quite a story. I bet we have many unappreciated heroes all over the country. I would second that. Craig is saying, from reading his autobiography, I was impressed by how adept a networker Dr. Viscardi was. Would you like to speak to that at all?
Thank you, Craig. I think that his hidden superpower was his ability to build relationships and to network and to work his way into network of influence, and to use that influence on behalf of access and opportunity for people with disabilities. We all at Viscardi try very hard to emulate that example, particularly when it comes to impacting public policy in ways that improve access, opportunity, and inclusion for people with disabilities. But you're right, that really is his superpower.
Natalie's also put her email information, the phone number, and various information. We also have other links in the chat. Sharon's asking, curious, is the museum right on the campus of the school or a separate building in the area?
It is in the same area of the school, of the center, of so we're a big campus. So it literally is in its own space. It will have its own entrance, but it is on the same campus of the Viscardi Center and the Henry Viscardi School. It's just in a section, in a specific section, which we do have signage when you do visit the location of where the museum is to direct you to where the parking is for individuals that visit in person.
Just to add to Natalie, for those who've never visited, and we encourage you to please visit, we'd love to see you there. But our complex has grown thanks largely to the vision of Dr. Viscardi to 170,000 square feet, and it's all connected. So all the spaces are connected. They've been woven together over 70 years. And of that space, we've devoted 4,500 square feet to the museum itself. So it's located on Searingtown Boulevard and IU Willits Road in Nassau County. We have plenty of parking available, including ADA accessible parking, and the access way to the museum itself is very accessible. We made sure that the entire line into and through the exhibit was accessible and intuitively so for people from cross-disability backgrounds.
This is Alice speaking. I'm curious about I understand the connection between where the museum is and then that there are other things on the Willowbrook campus. So how do you foresee someone, say myself, coming to the museum, experiencing the exhibits, and then if I wanted to see more at the Willowbrook campus, is that something that is available to someone coming to the museum?
Absolutely. You can see the contents of the archives, as Natalie mentioned, through a database that's available on our website. However, if your visit in person to the museum in Albertson, Long Island, or perusing the database inspires you to see the original documents that are curated at the Willowbrook Archives. They have really a brilliant archivist there who curates those parts of our collection for us. And by appointment, you can visit and arrange to have direct access to those documents at the archives at Willowbrook's campus. And it gives you the opportunity to visit their remarkable efforts to commemorate the history at the Willowbrook campus through the Willowbrook Mile, which is only the beginning of their efforts to curate the history of the experiences and the dramatic history on the Willowbrook campus. And
Other
just
questions or comments? Go ahead, Chris.
now, if I may, I was, you know, you always wonder whether or not you've hit the mark, and everybody needs to make that determination for themselves. But I went in being, I used my scholarly skepticism as I entered, even though I was proud of what we accomplished. I wanted to make sure that we got it right. And when we got to a part of the portal, which really was the time frame of my coming of age as a growing disability studies scholar. You know, I was a student in David Good's class at the CUNY Graduate Center in the Department of Sociology. I was taking his class, and many of my classmates were really deeply rooted in the AIDS movement. You know, it was a really important time, and my classmates were actively involved in that movement. They were members of ACT UP, and I was inspired by their activism. I learned a lot about their tensions with the gay men's health crisis, and that not one approach to access and opportunity for people who were really suffering as a community because the nation was really turning their back on them. And, you know, I consider myself an ally to them in that movement. But it wasn't until delving into the portal that I realized that we were all part of the self community. And it made me question what was going on with me at that time. Was it latent homophobia that I hadn't gotten in touch with yet? And it prevented me from considering us all part of the same movement? Or was it the resistance of members of the LGBT community to claim their identity as people with disabilities as they were diagnosed with HIV and AIDS? The ADA had not yet passed, and the rules had not yet been adopted. And it wasn't clear, I think, to many of them that by definition, they were protected under the Americans with Disabilities Act, and we were all part of the same movement. But just for me, I'm 59 years old in 2 months, and the notion that I was just having these powerful memories and this self-reflection about what was I thinking for something I believe so deeply in now? Where was I then? What did I miss? How did it happen? But you know, the fact that it affected me that way said maybe we did something right here. That no matter where we are in the arc of learning about what it means to have a disability and how we situate ourselves and our life's history in the arc of history of the American disability community means that there's a powerful opportunity there. And that's what I hope everybody who visits the museum gets from it, an opportunity to interact with the portal and allow themselves to ask those provocative questions and to reflect upon what it meant for us then and what it means for us now and what will it mean for us going forward. That's a goal for us. And we hope that you'll visit and experience the same thing.
And David put in the chat that James, is it Kaiser at CSI Library? So is that
that's our archivist.
That is the contact at Willowbrook, is that correct?
That's
or
correct.
Just at the museum?
That's correct. But we can put you in touch with them.
And I'm curious, Chris, about the very vast cast of people that is on your screen behind you, what you're using for your screenshot there, the origin of all those very famous people that I somewhat can pick out.
Oh, that, as I said, that was one of our finer moments. And I'm still part of a coalition of organizations that is fighting for greater investment on behalf of New York State's more than 100,000 students with disabilities who are enrolled in public, independent, and proprietary colleges and universities in New York State who are still woefully lacking the kind of investment they need to have a level playing field to equal access in all aspects of the higher ed experience. So our Henry Viscardi students all want to end up at colleges and universities, mostly in New York State. So we continue to fight as part of that coalition because it creates paths of opportunity for our students going forward. But it's always a proud moment when we take over something to express our outrage and to demand change. And that's our CUNY students and SUNY students occupying the $1 million staircase in the New York State Capitol in Albany.
We can open it up for questions or comments. You can put your comments in the chat. You can raise your hand and come on and ask your questions directly.
Grover Hogan asks, since he doesn't know how to raise his hand, is Lois Curtis in any way represented at the Henry Viscardi Portals Museum?
You know, it's interesting. She happens to be because of our commentary on the Olmsted decision and how it's changed all of our lives to gain access and opportunity in the most inclusive setting. But you'll find that one of the things that I dread, but I know is important, is everyone, rightly so, will look to see themselves and their own experiences represented in the collection. And there are going to be people who are disappointed. We did our best to be inclusive, but because of the broadness of our disability community and how diverse it is, at this moment in this opening foray, everyone may not find their complete stories or their histories represented yet. But this is our opening exhibit. As Natalie said, I think so eloquently, it's our first try. And part of any great museum is how it will evolve as we turn the page. And so the feedback that we get, the critical commentary will be taken openly and with an eye towards what will the next iteration look like. And so we welcome the constructive criticism. We won't be offended. We'll be grateful and we'll be emboldened to grow the collection in ways where over time, everyone gets to see themselves and their experiences represented. So let us have it. We're ready.
Thank you.
But we happen to have Lois represented.
In what way? Her art or her?
It's just in a short video clip about Elsie Olmsted case and decision.
I see. Okay, thank you.
But you do raise a good point, and let's see how that evolves going forward.
Well, I was thinking of a segue into February 11th, Devva's room. And I mean, I've got, well, okay, I'll just say I have about 20,000 images on my iPhone. A certain percentage is Lois. But it's very interesting. There's only one or two people who've ever asked me if they could see it. So I've got, like an hour, 17-minute documentary, I'll call it, that when we were preparing, or Lois was preparing to be represented at the John Jay. And I've told dozens of people about it, in the disability realm. No one ever asks me, so I can at least say I got a lot of digital material. I've got the crayon dosh set of crayons that she used for almost everything she did, certainly at my house. But anyway, I look forward to making a list of things that are, I'm 83. Good heavens. I might not be here in 30 years, So.
Well,
Thank you for that. Thank you for that comment, Grover, because both the Disability History and Culture Collective and the I Love You Lead On community is working in this effort. Of course,
yes.
Devva's room is one example, but Grover, we don't want those things to get lost. And so one thing that we're discussing, we don't have any, we have the beginnings of the discussion, I can say, from those of us, and please come to our Wednesday meetings. If you're not on our Google list, those of you that are in the call, please join us. But we're talking about that, about who has those things.
Okay.
I'd love
Wonderful.
to see her crayons.
Yes.
And where are they? They're spread across the country. And what can, I'm not an archivist, if that's how you say it, but how do we go forward so that we don't lose these things as people are getting older? And the history, of course, is still not always being taught. There are efforts in that regard, but how do we take this first wonderful museum and look for all of the people across the country who have those materials? Devva's archives are still being looked at by her family, but when people leave us, do they have a plan? So look forward to those discussions about, how have people archived their own things? Maybe, Grover, you can talk a little bit about that next month. But where are those things? And I think it starts on a very personal level that we all have those mementos, those family heirlooms, whether they're worth money or not. And this is, to me, information and history that we need it. We don't want to lose it. So how do we start taking what's Chris and Natalie have started here and finding the other people? I know the American Printing House is getting ready to open their museum, the Dot Museum. I'm not sure when. There are collections at the Smithsonian. There are collections all over. And how do we not lose them? So I'm looking forward to that discussion, but I'm glad you raised that, Grover.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, Sharon Pennock in the chat says, let's talk. So yes, we would like to talk with you about what you have.
Don't get me started.
I'm a little bit familiar because I've been to I went 2 years ago to the Georgia History conference, and we need to find who's doing what, and hopefully on the DHACC website that's under construction will start to become a one-stop area where people can come to find out who has those things, where they are. If teachers want to request, like, that's great, Natalie. I'm glad to know that we can request those things. And who can we request them from, and for how long, and how can we get existing museums like our East Tennessee History Museum here? We could do something here, or we could do it all over the country. But yes, let's talk.
Are you in Knoxville?
I'm in Knoxville, yes.
Lord have mercy, you said the magic word. Well,
yeah, I'm not far. I'm not
one
far.
of the, okay.
But
let's
Sharon's in Philadelphia, Susan's in Michigan,
yes.
And people that aren't here on the call tonight. Natalie joins us regularly on the Wednesday calls. It's like, how do we start? Jim has been on the calls, David's been on the calls. How do we collectively start to find where the things are, so that people who may not even know what they have can share that, and we don't lose those stories.
Yes. Well, very good. It's a topic that I love to talk of, and but I won't get into it now.
Next month.
Yes.
So everybody come back. And if you'd like to put your email in the chat, we send out the weekly email about the Wednesday meetings, and then we're trying to do a separate email about each individual activity, like Devva's room. Justin's room is coming up next Wednesday, and other things that we're doing. So join us.
Thank you. Yes.
Who else? Natalie, can you talk a little bit about, you mentioned it in your presentation, about the exhibit at the Children's Museum, the work at the Children's Museum, and then also the other exhibit that the museum name keeps escaping me on, transportation history, and the Viscardi Museum, the museum's collaboration with those efforts. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so basically with the Long Island Children's Museum, they did get some of the items that we had either in the collection or part of Viscardi to represent like his story and who he was when they had a short exhibition over the summer. And that collaboration led to a longer partnership with us. As for the transportation exhibition, that was another partnership, which is lasting now. But that is more of a collaboration with Chris. If Chris, you want to talk more about the transportation exhibition that happened in New York City.
Oh, sure. So first, our Long Island Children's Museum exhibit, as Natalie mentioned, the Long Island Children's Museum were great mentors for us on building out a museum on Long Island. And what was unique about our community, what are the unique opportunity, what might be some of the hidden barriers. The director of their museum was a wonderful friend to us in bringing the museum, the Disability Art Museum of Disability History to life on Long Island. And she reached out to us, as Natalie said, and asked us if we could allow them to curate an exhibit focused on understanding the experiences of kids with disabilities. So it was very hands-on and included toys that represented people with disabilities, like the Barbie doll series, where they've designed a lot of Barbies that represent wheelchair users, blind and low vision users. Many of you, I'm sure, have seen that Barbie just announced that they're rolling out Autism Barbie that reflects neurodiverse individuals. So those types of toys were available for kids to play. There was a wheelchair there so kids could understand how it was rolling over different terrains and how certain terrain optimized wheelchair access. Great exhibits like, a gold medal Paralympian who lives in the local community, who was there for the opening of the exhibit so that people could meet her. Her gold medal was displayed in the exhibit. So it was a really cool way to introduce kids and their families who would be in the museum to the American disability experience. In terms of transportation, it was by our colleagues in New York City, it was much more about the archives of documents of the transportation movement to make public transportation accessible to people with disabilities in New York City as part of the national movement to make transportation accessible for people with disabilities. There was all this great archival material collected, and the archives are being housed not in the archives at the College of Staten Island, but it was important to create a public place where people could encounter them and want more. So it's currently located in the lobby of ADAPT, which used to be United Cerebral Palsy of New York City. But they have their headquarters in Lower Manhattan, and they've devoted lobby space, prime space, open and available to the public, where photos, key artifacts are available, and it allows people to learn about that part of history and to whet their appetites to learn more. So we were very proud to be included in that exhibit and in that conversation.
And do you see yourselves going outside of the New York area to help move other museum exhibits along, or what do you see in the future?
I mean, we're eager to be a resource to our peers now and in the future. We consider ourselves novices at this, so we don't want to overstep and claim expertise that we're rapidly acquiring. But we're pleased to be partners with all of you. And in this larger national conversation, David was really, I'm so blessed throughout my whole life, my whole career, for the doors and opportunities he's opened for me. And he involved us in the national discussion for a truly national museum of disability history. That's the Holy Grail, right? I mean, that's really what we're all after. Representation on the National Mall of the experiences of people with disabilities throughout history. So we're learning a lot. There's so many people who've done so much hard work in that effort. We're just proud to line up behind them or alongside them and see how we together can make progress towards that goal. But we'd be pleased to be included in any and all conversations. But of course, we're ready to help now if we can offer it.
Craig says in the chat, great work. Looking forward to the opening, as am I.
Thanks. Thank you all.
Have to figure out how I'm going to get there.
Well, the opening itself will be nice because of the ceremonial quality, but we want to make every visit joyful. Natalie's the right person for that. She's great in presentation, but she's glorious in leading as a docent, leading individuals or groups through a tour of the museum. And if I may just add maybe one parting thought from me, we're really excited about that for teaching groups of kids. We're working very hard to market ourselves as a destination for school trips in surrounding school districts. By teaching disability studies and disability history to our students in K through 12, we have this glorious opportunity to develop kids as peer docents. You know, so when the 4th grade class from another school district visits our 4th graders from the Henry Viscardi School, will be peer docents who will join Natalie in the tour, but in the breakout area in our multi-purpose room, they'll be served lunch. Some projects will be designed around the different portal emphases, and Natalie and the peers will lead a discussion about what it means to them, what it means to the kids both with and without disabilities. And we absolutely guarantee that the Viscardi kids and the visiting kids will leave that time together thinking about their experiences with disabilities in new ways that will shape their consciousness about what it means to be a kid with a disability in the United States. And that's a cool thing.
Yeah, that is cool.
That brings up a couple questions, B. So are there hotels nearby? Are you near transportation so people can get there other than by cars?
It's tricky.
Yeah, it is.
Go ahead. Would you like to start?
But there is transportation. So the Long Island Railroad is not too far. If you're, if we're not talking about car or any transportation, it's like a 10-minute walk. So we are like 10 minutes from the LAR. There's majority of the transportation is car or bus or taxi. So yeah, that's technically the only transportation.
and for Long Islanders, we're a destination for paratransit, but
Yep.
It's a challenge. It's not like being in the heart of New York City. But we couldn't afford 4,500 square feet for exhibition in New York City.
And if you were flying, what would be the closest airport?
Well, we're not far from LaGuardia or JFK.
JFK would be the closest than LaGuardia.
We're also not that far from MacArthur Airport on Long
Yep.
Island, which is emerging as a hub.
We'll start our travel plan.
Yeah.
We'll make it worth your while.
And hearing that there are other disability history related things in the area, that someone who really wanted to dig in like myself could do, not just coming to see you all, which would be lovely. When I come, I want to spend more than a day and then leave. But there are other options to get acquainted with other pieces of history, which over the last month or so, listening to Jim Conroy speak last month, and David's work about Pennhurst and Willowbrook has caused me to think, having had students that came from the state institution when I taught in Nashville, what is being done in the state of Tennessee. And Vanderbilt has a new project. They've done one session. There's another session next week on history. And a colleague of mine is going to be presenting at that session. And so we're going to sit together and chat a little bit about what's going on in Tennessee with the history. So Grover, we may be coming to pick your brain or talk to other people, because there are, I know, noted things that have happened in the state of Tennessee that need to be brought to people's attention.
Yes. Well, thank you for bringing that up. And the reason I mentioned on the 11th of February, when Rick Berry and Clifton Heath will be with me. Clifton is my current, I shouldn't say current, but anyway, he's my protege. He knew Lois. He was involved to some extent in, her business planning, her art business. But Clifton is, he identifies as having Asperger's. His parents, both of his parents, who were movers and shakers in the contemporary art scene of Atlanta and really, I suppose, the South, they both graduated from Vanderbilt.
Did they really?
Yes, and actually, my ophthalmologist, who did most of my surgery back in the 80s, he's the chairman of the ophthalmology department, and he's an art collector. Well, anyway, I do get off on a tangent, but I do have a quick question. The Outside of Arts Fair that will be there in Manhattan, I think it's March 17th through the Sunday. Is there any connection? I mean, I assume y'all are aware of the Outside of Arts Fair, and but the reason, I mean, I went up there in 2019, with the intention of publicizing Lois Curtis, which I sort of did, and so anyway, the Outside Arts Fair, I think there will be some representation of Lois' work there, simply because of some of the galleries here in Atlanta who have participated in that show. But anyway, that is really what I was attempting to do for Lois. Is, all I need is an art historian of some significance to write about Lois. I mean, Lois was an inspiring artist, but that's for the 11th, isn't it? I'll shut up.
I don't know anything about that fair, so I'd love to learn more about it.
Okay, good show.
But maybe you can expand on that in an email or something. Or is that something that you all are participating in New York?
Not us, but not because we wouldn't have been interested. It would be new to us, Grover. And we thank you for letting us know.
Yes.
But if we had to be honest with you, we've been so hyper focused on getting the museum ready for the opening that we haven't had a lot of bandwidth to look much outside of ourselves. But that will be our future, and we're grateful to have friends and colleagues like you who can help to broaden our understanding of what's happening in our network.
Yes, believe it or not, there's a gallery in Strasbourg, the Rizzi Uffizi. They've actually picked up on Lois. The man who owns it, his name is Richard Schulte. I mean, 3 years ago, he contacted me, just by seeing Lois' work on my Facebook, I guess. So anyway, I think this is a great year before I die, for Lois to be represented and be considered by, let's just say serious art historians. So anyway.
Well, and I think we're seeing too, Grover, as you pointed out, that there's so much going on. A lot of people are doing things, and that's why we had the gathering that we had in December. And we'll have again quarterly for people who are working on collections, on archiving, on all
Yes.
kinds of things. We
Yes.
had 17 people on the 23rd of December, which was amazing. And we will meet again probably in March. We'll be getting that information out. And then hopefully as we build up both the DHACC website and the I Love You Lead On website, there will be a one place to post these kinds of things. We've pushed ahead on our social media. If you're not seeing us on social media, we're out there on LinkedIn. We're out there on most of the platforms to try and promote Devva's Room and Justin's Room that's coming up for the first time next week, and Judy's Room and other things like the museum gathering that we had. So corralling it all, because there's so many people out there doing work in this space that we want to try and bring everybody together. Let's see, there's something else. Okay, did you put, okay, opening days and hours of the museum, Natalie's posted, will be Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Wednesdays, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Every first Saturday of each month. Let's see, I'm having trouble scrolling here. 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Every last Sunday of each month, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then Mondays you'll be closed. And as you have told us before, Natalie, on the days that you're closed, that doesn't mean that you're closed. You all are going to be perhaps doing internal development, offering workshops. The museum space and the touring won't happen. So it's all
Yeah, so
very
Mondays and
exciting.
Fridays are internal. It's by schedule. So if anyone schedules any groups or wants to basically even work with like the Henry Viscardi students, that is what the main focus is on when it comes to Mondays and Fridays. But that is more internally scheduled for those days to work with students and with groups outside, like camps and certain things like that. And also, Grover, if you want to represent Lois, we're able to. So what we have in development is pre-lessons for individuals, so professors, scholars, academics, anybody that's interested in just bringing a group of students that they're teaching a specific lesson on. And since Lois was a very big part of art culture,
Yes.
you can definitely send over some information and like, explain like her history to me and I can share it with my team and we can put together like a pre-lesson if you'll like, so students can know about them.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
So yeah.
Before we close, one thing I think it would be remiss not to mention is that next week we have our very first Justin's Room, which is hopefully going to be a very exciting night. The idea behind Justin's Room is that we all have a story to tell. Our stories are important. One of the things that Yoshiko and Justin Dart did before the passage of the ADA is they went to all 50 states more than once, some as many as 4 times, gathering stories of people's hopes and dreams, their frustrations, anything that was important. They gathered stories. And they brought those to Congress so that they would understand the importance of the ADA. And then the ADA got passed 100%, which is amazing in and of itself. So the first Justin's Room is going to be stories about Justin Yoshiko. People can share personal stories of their interactions with them or how their work impacted their lives. It can be from whatever angle people feel comfortable with. And then each month we're going to pick somebody else to sort of focus on. Won't be the exclusive focus, but February will be Alice Wong. So people can talk about how her work has impacted them. or how it's going to be an Alice Wong intersectionality. So how intersectionality and disability are definitely intertwined. And then with the recent passage of Bob Kafka, March is going to be dedicated to Bob and adapt stories. So we're not sure where it's going to go after that, but I'm very excited that Justin's Room is going to be starting and looking forward to hearing people's stories. And, you know, and maybe there's a way that the stories could and actually become a part of the museum, because we're going to create essentially a catalog of people's stories. And, you know, they should be heard as many times as possible.
We agree. That would be glorious.
Yes, it would be.
When as part of a team building activity around the museum, we asked colleagues to make a list of, if you could choose one artifact that you'd love to see in the museum. I mean, it's really aspirational. What would you pick? And of course, a lot of people said Justin's hat. I'd love that. That would be a great artifact to have on loan. A great conversation opener about Justin and his transformational work.
And his wheelchair is in Philadelphia. Is that right, Sharon? I can't remember. Someone said that.
My understanding is that it's at the Constitution Center in Philadelphia.
Oh, wow.
Where is the enormous puppet? The Justin Dart puppet. Where is that? Do y'all know?
Here in Detroit.
Beg pardon?
That's where it was built, and that's where it remains.
And excuse me, where is that? I missed that. Well, I saw it in Washington, D.C., the one I saw. But
I don't
you're
know
saying
anything about it.
Susan said it is here in Detroit, Michigan.
Okay, gotcha. Great place.
Yeah, it's in storage at this point, because it's been used in a number of parades. So
Yes,
it's I can't say it's worse for wear, but it needs a little reparation done on it. And I'm very proud to say that I worked on that.
yeah. I have a certain amount of footage, probably like a 25-minute segment from the ADA celebration in Washington some years ago. And Tom Olin was, of course, there flitting around everywhere, taking pictures. So anyway, it's worthy of a film festival.
Yes. And those are the things, Grover, this is Alice again, that I had no idea that a puppet existed, but where are these things? And I would love to see
this puppet,
list.
if you've never seen it, it is giant. It is.
It certainly is.
Probably close to 1 story high. The wheelchair is enormous. But it was all made from paper mache. And it was all people, a lot of kids were involved in making it.
Wonderful.
There probably were
I love it.
maybe 30, 35 people that came together most Saturdays and would work on it. Creating the paper mache, painting it, redoing it. Yoshiko came and visited and decided, had helped us decide how to do certain things. She's the one who noticed that we forgot to put a wedding ring on him. So that was one of the last things that was put on the puppet, was a wedding ring. So it definitely is a piece of history, and it might very well, I know who's in control of it. I could mention it to them, because maybe it should come out of storage and be someplace where it can be seen.
And Sharon has put a link to it in the chat. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you. That would be glorious. Friends, I'm sorry, I must excuse myself.
Yes.
Home care is here and the clock is ticking. But,
thank you so much, Chris,
no,
and
but
thank you, Natalie.
It was our honor. We're so grateful to be part of this community. We're blessed. Thank you.
And if anyone wants to stick around, we can stop the recording and chat about museum history, whatever. If not, we can close out the room. So I'll go ahead and end my recording, Sharon.